Well, praise the Lord, saints and friends. This is Elder Adrian Hammond. I thought I was going to be able to do more things, but sometimes when you are a caregiver, you have to concentrate your efforts upon that. And so I had to postpone some things I wanted to do for a little bit. But I still have a lot of things on my mind. Regarding the things that have taken place today and over the last few weeks. Hopefully this will be okay, because I thought it was a poor connection, but looks like it's going to be okay now. Anyway, my thought for right now deals with the labeling of this particular portion of the United States as being invaded, and how the National Guard and the Marines are going to liberate us. Now, understand that those that are invading other countries, those that are invading other places, you have to consider them an invader. And perhaps that was one of the issues with Russia and Ukraine, that there were enough people that were Russians that wanted the Russians, there was enough Russian speaking or Russian that were part of Ukraine that wanted either autonomy from their own government, or who wanted the Russians who were in Russia to come in and annex. So, of course, they did. But there were people there who identified with Ukraine, and who was, and be honest, it was in Ukrainian territory. So at least for those people, what the Russians did was an invasion. So possibly you can say in this area of California that there were people that really did not want the immigrants to be there. And so they considered it an invasion. However, here's my question. If this was an invasion, and this is the whole thing that with people in other states, Minnesota, possibly Wisconsin, South Dakota, Montana, they feel like California has been invaded by these people who come from other countries. Most of the time they meant Mexicans. Sometimes, of course, they mean other people that come from other areas of the world. Like you got Thai, you got Vietnamese that come over, Chinese, Japanese that come over, as well as people from areas of the Caribbean. But it's easier, since the nation's right there, for them to come over from Mexico. And they feel like it's an invasion. So in some circles, that may actually be the case. But usually, if there's an invading force, then there is a resistance of some sort that essentially would rise up and try to force the invading force out. Because the invading force wants to put their own philosophy, their own government, their own everything. And so those that are already in that particular area, that they don't want this. So there's a pushback. There's a resistance. It wasn't much of a resistance of this force, I would tell you that right now. You may say that, well, it's because the people here are all immigrants. Well, okay, that is. Same thing when the Irish flooded the eastern seaboard, and the Italians flooded, and the Germans flooded. They were immigrants at that time. But they assimilated into the population. Now, about the flag waving, yes, they still had their German flags too, and their Irish flags, and they still had their Italian flags, but they identified with the United States. So those are not invaders, except to those who are so insular that they felt threatened because it would be less of their kind, which I think is what's happening here. Some people feel it's less than their kind. Now, the key here is, again, I'm always talking from how should the saint of God see this? And be honest, we have a higher citizenship. Our citizenship is the kingdom of heaven. So when you're talking about a nation, yes, we pay allegiance to the nation as long as it doesn't run afoul of the work of the Lord. But when we're around people and we see what they want, they don't want to hijack the government. They don't want to bring this area of the country back to Mexico or any other country that they see. They don't want to rise up and take control and overthrow the government of this area. They just want to get here. Now, yes, there are criminals, yes. As in any group of people, every group of people in this nation have included in their population a very seedy element that's predisposed to criminality. It's just a fact of life. Does not mean that the entire or even most of the area or the group is criminal in terms of breaking the laws, except for those that are of immigration. Now, understand this too. I understand the people who feel that those who come over here, sneak over here, try to escape over here, that they should come in the right way. I hear this argument all the time. Except many times, if they try to do it the right way, they'll never get in here. It's not built. The system is broken, and it has to be fixed. But while they are here, the Christian, the true Christian, is not there to take sides, but is there to treat them as a person. Treat them as a person. Well, they broke the law by coming over here. Yes, but understand this. Some people wanted them to be here because they took jobs. And be honest, most of the jobs they take, and you can argue back and forth with this, but most of the jobs that they've taken are not jobs that me and you would take. The reason why they take them is because they're earning more than what they ever would in their own country. So they take those. Which leads to an interesting point. If such a person, if you're looking for criminals, which is what was said, that we're going to hunt the criminals, the illegal criminals, the ones that are doing all the killing and the raping and the stealing and the extortion and the drug dealing and everything else. Criminals are not stupid. They're not going to be hanging around Home Depot. They are not going to ride a bus to Bel Air or to Brentwood or the Pacific Palisades to clean someone's house. They're not going to go into the vineyards and the orchards and the farmlands of Ventura County or the Central Valley or the Napa Valley, wherever they may end up being. They're not going to do that because they know they're going to get caught. So understand this. If you as an ICE agent is going to go after criminals and then maybe you capture someone who maybe shouldn't have been there at you're wrong place at the wrong time and so on, so on, so on. And I got all that, but you're looking at the wrong places to catch the criminals. You really are. And are there criminals here? Yeah. There are gangs here? Yes. There's MS-13 here, Southern California. Raid their places. I'm not trying to be, I'm saying the same thing about Blood and Crips. You know where they are, get them. But it's much easier to get someone who's not that dangerous and to deport them. Much easier to do that than it is to go after the actual criminals who are really, who, yes, I would say they can do they can cause damage to this country. But you're not capturing the criminals. They're laughing at you. That's the problem. They're laughing at you because they know that they're not going to be at Walmart. They're not going to be at Home Depot. They're not going to be working in the garment shops over in downtown LA. The criminals are not going to be there. They're not. Maybe one of those that maybe own the place, or maybe they are laundering money, but it's not just them. It's all the other gangs. It's you could say it's the black gangs, it's the Filipino gangs, it's all other gangs that are funneling money through laundering and all that other type of stuff. And you're not deporting them, of course, because they happen to come from here. But in terms of capturing a person, you're barking up the wrong tree, guys. That's why you're having so much flack with all these people who are looking at and say, Mike, and yes, again, I understand the argument. They came here legally, then we should be forced to get them back. But there's a way to do it. There is a way to do it that is fair, equitable, reasonable, and still purports or supports your ideas of getting people out that should not be here. But you're destroying families. You're ripping fathers from their mothers or from their family. You're ripping wives. You're ripping children away. If that happened to you, you say, well, I wasn't there the wrong way. No, you'd be mad. You'd be very upset. How dare you disrupt my family? How dare you take my father away? How dare you do? That's not nice. That's cruel. But that's what you're doing. I just want you to step aside one time and not just look at the rhetoric. This is about humanity and human lives. Put yourself in their position. They have tried their best, for many of them, to not cause a peep. They make money. Part of their money is pulled out in taxes that helps this country. And they don't get that help back because, no, you cannot be on welfare and be undocumented. You have to have documentation to get on welfare. So, let's think about this. This is not an invasion. And the National Guard and the Marines are not liberating Los Angeles, especially since the people who they say that are being liberated from are elected officials. No matter how you might like them or don't like, you may despise them, but this part of the country elected those officials. Now, you may call this part of the country loony, crazy, leftist, whatever you may want to say. I got it. Because leftists are calling your side of the country the same thing. How could you vote for all these people that are against what you are suffering? I mean, you're suffering and you're like voting against your own interests. But is that what you do? That's what you do. We're not saying that someone is invading your area. And no undocumented people cannot vote. There is a system in place. No matter what, I don't care how many people say it's not, there is a system in place that checks to see if you're on the roll. Every time I go to vote, they have to look at my name on a list, and I have had to have registered earlier. Those that are undocumented, they can't even have a chance to get on that list. So they can't vote. Well, but they do this and they do that. Well, but in the most cases, they can't vote. So, number one, I'm going to end with this. Number one, there are no invaders. There are people that came here, some legally, some not. Some working, a few are of the criminal element. Get those. But I'd rather get the people that have been born here that are criminals. Get them too, please. Get them. Lock them up. But there's no invasion. There's no invaders. And the people who are being liberated don't want to be liberated. And if you're liberating them, how in the world are 2,000 National Guard and 700 Marines, I don't care how much of a Superman you think you are, how can they come up against millions of people? Millions. So if they are coming to liberate, it's a pitiful army that's coming to liberate us. And most of the people in California don't want to be liberated. So where's that argument? Again, as a saint of God, I'm just looking at things rationally. Things have to be done? Yes, they can be done. I understand about taking illegal immigrants and placing them back where they came from. I got it. But even our president, over the last 2 or 3 days, have said, well, we should think about maybe getting those who are working on the farms, that they should have some type of identification so that we can let them in. They have it. You just didn't want it. You wanted to get them all. Now that you see the farms are suffering, not just in California, Kansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, farms are suffering. They have nobody to work on them. So before the food prices begin to skyrocket because there's not enough crops to be, then we should get our stuff together. But the only liberation that I really care about right now is being liberated from sin. Liberated from sin. Instead of worrying about who's liberating who, we should worry about liberating ourselves with the help of the Lord Jesus Christ from sin. God bless you. May He keep you. Have a good evening.